What's going on, good people? Here with Lorinda and Darren Altman. Reached out, listeners. Just want to hear a little bit about your story, guys. What's going on in the business? How can I be of service? Or in other words, how can I give you a new perspective? I'll let it rip.
All right. Yeah. We I've been in business for about 14 years. I do building and remodeling, so I do
Okay.
pretty much everything. So I've
Okay.
listened to your podcast. I
Thank
know
you.
you get a lot of painters and things like
Sure.
that. I do painting. I have one of my employees does painting, drywall, all that. He specializes in that primarily.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we just do kitchens, bathrooms,
Sure.
basement finishing, room additions, pretty much you name it. Um, the issue I'm having is just profitability and just my margins aren't there. And I've been doing this a long time. I had 6 guys. I'm down to 5, looking to hire 1 or 2 more. Um, and I'm just, always have plenty of work. There's never been a day that I haven't had work since I got laid off from my job 14 years ago, and just been plugging away
Sure.
since. And but at the end of the day, bills are paid, everything's done. It's like there's just not much left over, and it's
Too much
hard
money
to.
at the end of the money.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's hard to grow the business
Yeah.
further, to get some more company vehicles, things like
Sure.
that, more tools when the money's not there.
Yeah.
I don't really borrow right now. I could. I do have a line of credit, but primarily, I just pay everything off every month and go.
What's your
But
most profitable job?
um, I would say a lot of times my bathrooms seem to be
Okay.
fairly profitable, a little bit smaller jobs. Um, Basements, not as much, even though it's a higher cost job, higher paying job, but they just drag out.
Yep.
You run into a lot more complications and
Sure.
it just eats into your profits.
Yeah, yeah. So usually when something like this occurs, it's just simply because there's a lack of predictability there. Like in
Right.
other words, like it's very hard for you to make confident decisions because when you're dealing with so many different variables that pop up out of nowhere, then you find yourself in a position where, I don't take you as the type of person to charge a customer more. It's just one of those things that we don't do as integral business owners,
Right.
but you wind up
Right.
shooting yourself in the foot. And what happens is if something's dragging on 2 3 weeks, I'm sure longer, 4 6 weeks, the feedback loop is really long. In other words, what happened on week one, by the time you get to week 7 and you get another customer that comes in, wants a basement, you're already in a position where you're vulnerable. And what's happening is maybe you're taking those jobs because you need the money and need to keep the
Right.
team busy, right? So it's like this perpetual cycle of chaos, and I want to help you with that because the thing is, right off the bat, it didn't take you long to tell me what the most profitable job that you do is. And you said it's bathrooms. It almost sounded a little bit like you enjoy when you get a customer that wants a bathroom. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Bathrooms and kitchens. I do like
Bathrooms,
kitchens as
kitchens.
well. Yeah.
So when you price out these jobs, how are you pricing out the options? In other words, when you're walking into a home, what is your strategy for giving a customer a quote, knowing that, hey, if they pick a certain type of vanity or they pick a certain type of tile, I mean, there's a lot of variables there. How are you selling these services to protect the integrity of the project? Because you and I both know if someone goes with a porcelain floor that, is the size, a really long porcelain tile versus a small tile. I mean, there's a lot of things that you don't know yet, right? So how are you managing that?
Well, luckily, the last couple years, I've been working with a lot of designers as well. They've been bringing me the work,
Okay.
and I've
So
also
you know
referred
everything ahead
them.
of time in some cases.
Yeah, they might be, hey, I have this customer. They've already picked out their tile and their cabinets and all their shower fixtures. We just need you for labor, things like that. But yet again, like you had mentioned with, floor tile and stuff like that, I need to go in and say, okay, this floor is really uneven. So we have to do a lot of prep work or the labor is going to take longer. But you're right, the size of tile, things like that, I need to know. And that is helpful having a designer involved. Plus, a lot of times homeowners, I don't really like it when they want to get their own stuff because 9 times out of 10 get the wrong stuff.
Right. So let's talk about that. Okay. Because you have two types of customers. You have customers that come from a designer. So this is what I would put in our A plus category, right? Because you know that they're qualified. You're referred by someone that they trust. So you're riding the momentum of their trust. And ultimately, you don't have to deal with the headache of them making poor purchasing decisions, right?
Right.
And then you have this other type of customer who what I would consider like a B minus, right? That's that person that finds you, calls you, it's like a deer in the headlights. Well, I'm not sure what I want. Like, it's like, so these are two different buying experiences, right? Now, would you say that your most profitable favorite A plus type jobs are the ones that come from the designer?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me just ask you this. If this was the only thing that you did was work for your designer to remodel kitchens and bathrooms, do you think a lot of the problems that you're having in terms of cash flow would be completely wiped away and you'd be a much happier business owner?
I don't know, because I think there's still a lot of variables there, because since I am doing the labor, and I do have to go back to the customer sometimes if we run into an issue. Hey, we tore out a
Sure.
wall and there was rot behind there. Now we got to repair all that stuff we didn't know.
So let's talk about that scenario. You mentioned you had 6 guys and
Yeah.
you said that you have to do all the work. You're actually physically doing work.
I actually like to, but anymore, no. I'm not doing a whole lot, because with that many guys, and I usually have 4 to 5
Lorinda,
jobs going on at a time,
Lorinda, how do you feel about that?
I'm running all over the place. I'm tired. Yeah.
Let's bring in Lorinda here. Lorinda, how do you
Hey,
feel about Darren doing the work?
he needs to slow down. I envision him getting to a place. I feel like it should have happened by now, but I understand due to the circumstances, it hasn't. But I feel like you can get to a point where you're reaping the benefit of your business without having to do the hard labor.
Yeah,
But I think you have to work backwards in a sense. You have to determine, okay, this is what I want my salary to be. And then you have to look at job costs and, labor costs. And there's just a
right.
lot of factors that I'm not a business owner. I don't do, this is not my line of work, but I do feel like,
But it just feels like something's off here.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
absolutely
Okay.
there is. And I'm
You don't need to
personally,
be a business owner to know that you got a gentleman here who's a stand-up business guy. He's been in business for 14 years.
yep,
I'm sure you've been through your share of chaos when it comes to hiring, Darren. I'm sure
yep,
that there's a certain standard that you carry yourself with your customers, that they appreciate you and you don't want to let them down. You
Right.
know,
right.
the standard that's kept you afloat for 14 years because you were kind of shoved into this, right? With
Yeah.
being laid off and
Hmm.
Yep.
and generally speaking, if this didn't work out, you don't know where your next play would be. I get all that, right? So it's not so much working backwards. It's a good way to put it, but really what it is first of all, a lot of the problems that come with the business owner doing the work is a lack of trust in the team. And I'll say that there's a few variables here. You probably have multiple jobs going on at once. It's
Yep.
Hmm.
very hard to take people off of work, especially because they're dragging out and you don't want to send one guy to a customer's house who's already irritated. You know what I'm saying? So it might be, hey, I'm going to start this one. I'll take on this one. And there's this kind of staggering that's happening. Is that what's happening, Darren, where you're kind of staggering help all
There
over
is a
the place?
lot. Yeah. There is a lot of staggering. And like you said, sometimes, you need to get another job started so you can get that money and keep things rolling.
Right.
But then there's also material delays and supplies that push
Sure.
one job off. So you got to get something else going.
I'm
So the
with you.
guys are working.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the guys are working. So let's talk about this for a second. I want you to do me a favor. Let's list out all the different job types that you've taken on in the last year. So let's start with number 1, bathroom remodels, right?
Yep.
Number 2, basements,
Basements,
kitchen remodels.
kitchens,
What else?
kitchen. Yep. I've done siding,
Siding,
windows. Um,
siding,
yep.
windows. Yeah.
I
Okay.
have 2 room additions going on right now.
2 additions. Okay.
Next.
What else?
Yeah, I've
Garage.
done a few decks. I've built a
Decks.
garage.
Okay. Garages. What else?
Other than just small things like door replacements, or
Okay.
just little small jobs, that's the bigger
Yep.
ones.
Okay. All right. So the first thing you need to identify is what is your goal, because right here you listed nine things. And it's gonna sound redundant, but I want you to get this point here. Could you just have a bathroom remodeling business?
I could probably work towards that.
Okay. Let me rephrase the question. Are there companies out there that only do bathroom remodeling?
Yes.
Okay.
They're pretty well known, you
Okay.
know.
Are there companies out there that only do basements?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are.
there are. Oh yeah, basement remodeling. Um, hold on one second. The are there companies that only do kitchen remodeling?
Yes.
Okay. Are there companies that only do siding?
Yes.
Are there companies that only do windows?
Yep.
Are there companies that only do additions?
Yep.
Are there
Mhm.
companies that only do decks?
Yeah.
Are there companies that only do garages? Maybe.
Yeah.
And then companies like handymen that would do door replacements and things in those small odd jobs. Okay.
Sure.
So you can't build momentum unless you pick one or two and stick with it and say no. There's no way. You'll never get out of this cycle. It's been 14 years. And I'll tell you why this is happening. And it's simply happening because this was your survival mechanism 14 years ago, where if someone would call you, you'd say yes, right? Because that was your marketing. It was your word of mouth. Word of mouth marketing is dangerous. It's not as great as people think, simply because it's very hard to say no to somebody that got your number for Margaret, who you did a basement remodel for, and she's got
Right.
siding that needs to be done. And you
Right.
don't want to come across as someone that can't help. Okay. But there's boundaries that really need to be put in place if your goal is to, what's your goal?
Just
More
make
profit.
more profit. Yeah.
Right, right. Your goal is more profit, but I need a little more detail than that. What is the goal in terms of like what you want to do with the business?
I would like to grow it a little more. I want it to run smoother. I don't want to have to be as hands-on.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Go deeper, because that's like a level 1 goal. Give me like a level 2 goal, like big picture. Like, is it retirement on the beach
well,
with
yeah,
Miranda here,
we're
company
getting
running
older,
itself?
definitely.
maybe
Yeah,
a
I don't want
maybe
to
a
be working while I'm
You don't
90.
want to be working. What if this is a crazy scenario? I don't think anyone's ever done this, but what if you scale it so big to $4 to $5 million a year? You bring in an equitable partner and you are a 50% owner and the business runs itself and you're receiving dividends every month.
Yeah, that would be
That's something that
fantastic.
can happen, especially in remodeling, right? And the only way that that happens, any business that's gotten to that level has just created predictable outcomes and strategies within the business, right? So it starts with what you accept, because if you can't identify the top 3 things that you do, okay? You guys got to go to restaurants?
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite restaurant? Like, you don't have to give the name, but like steakhouse, sushi, Starbucks, like what
Yeah,
is that for you?
steak.
Steakhouse, good
Gotcha.
wine, nice
Cool.
ambiance. Yeah.
Like ambiance, like that style. Okay.
Hmm.
So at a steakhouse, like let's say it's like a, I don't know, really upscale you're talking New York strip, ribeye, and you go in there and you say, you know what, for dinner tonight, I just want an apple juice, you know? And it's like, you're not going to ask that question to that place. You won't even
Right.
ask it because you know what you're going there for, right?
Right.
You probably no kids there. It's probably like an upscale place, like, and the restaurant is going to have to tell you no, because I'm sorry, we don't even have apple juice. Like, that's not even in our inventory. Like, I'm sorry, like, and they're okay with you being upset with that because they're tied to their standard. Maybe a different
Hmm.
example would be like, yeah, I just want an over easy egg. It's
Right.
like they probably have eggs and they probably could do it, but if they give you an egg because you want it rather than giving you the experience that they're known for, they risk their reputation. And
Right.
ultimately they'll implode because they're tied to their menu and to their standard, right? So that's where all this comes from. Really, the idea here, Darren, is we need to pick 3 things. And you
Yeah.
need to be okay with saying no to Sally, who calls you for a $10,000 siding job, Joe that wants a lanai built, and you have to understand the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you know where you're heading. And if you don't know where you're heading, it's going to be really hard to stick to the discipline, because it's
Yeah. And it's
discipline.
definitely difficult. It's definitely difficult in our area because it's a lot of small communities and everyone knows everyone. So yeah, for 14 years, that word of mouth has been killing me, you know?
It's killing you slowly. And you're in a position now, Darren, where, it's very hard to see what the future of your company looks like. And that's a dangerous position to be in that you don't deserve to be in, because you've been doing this for long enough to where, had you have done this 10 years ago and only did bathrooms and kitchens, you would have perfected bathrooms and kitchens. Now, here's another thought that most people don't consider, especially when we break down the fact that you are doing 9 businesses under one is the fact that when your employees come into work, now you have employees, or are they subcontractors or employees?
They're employees.
Hourly rate?
Yes.
Beautiful. So in other words, if you have an employee one day doing, let's say, some painting, right? Because that's part of a remodel, right?
Right.
And then the next day he's got to go rip out a bathroom. Do you feel like those hourly rates should be exactly the same in terms of the effort and the detail and the skill sets that he's expected to perform? No, they
Excellent
shouldn't
point.
be. Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Good point.
You know what I'm saying? So the morale of the employee goes down because he has no predictability. He doesn't know what physical torture he's going to endure, because tomorrow's a basement, next week's a deck removal, he's ripping out walls. So maybe you've experienced turnover, and I'm sure you have guys that love you and want to work for you, but I guarantee you, if you sat and talked with them, they probably expressed that it's kind of frustrating doing all sorts of different trades because they're not improving at one trade. In other
Right.
words, like if you have a guy doing a bathroom in the first week of July and he doesn't see another bathroom until the end of August because he's been doing siding, he can't improve doing bathrooms, which means that your team's ability to exceed at bathrooms to where you don't have to be there, it's just going to take years.
Right.
And then do you see that pattern or how that may have happened in your business over the last 14 years?
I do, absolutely. The thing is that's what I started doing, and that's like all the companies I worked for previously. We did everything, so I've just that's the way I was taught, and that's, I like that I'm well-rounded.
You're
But
like
you're
a
right, it's
super
hard to teach.
handyman, dude.
It's hard, right? It's hard to teach an employee every aspect of
Oh, no way.
construction.
No way, because you know that you need eyes on it because there's mistakes that you've made in 14 years that you
Yep.
just have the experience and you're the owner. I mean, so much of the problems that you're dealing with are simply because you are taking orders and accommodating everyone like you're a custom builder.
Right.
And they're not looking for that. Like, I think you need to train the market. And I also think that the idea behind pleasing everyone doesn't work in relationships, and it's certainly not going to work in business. Like
Right.
it doesn't work in any case, right? You can't be great at everything, right? So be great at a few things. So let's narrow down this list here. If like you had to make a choice, let's say we partnered together and I said, listen, you want my partnership? You need to pick 3 that you're going to do, and you're going to say no to everything else. What would those 3 be?
I would say kitchens, bath, and like custom basements, like,
All right.
making the man
Kitchen.
caves and a real nice.
Yep. Bath. Okay, cool. So that scratches the remodeling itch. The basement's there, which is fine, right? And you know that in your area, there's quite a few basements that are unfinished, untouched, and it's like
Yeah.
licking your chops when you walk down the wooden staircase, right?
Yeah.
So the reality here is those 3 things are really good choices, and I'll tell you why. Okay, because it starts with the element of number 1, is it easy to hire the skill sets for these trades? Let me ask you a question. When we put out an ad for a new employee right now, what would your ad say? Like right now, before this conversation, let's say we need an employee. Like, tell me what the ad would say.
Well, it's just like, we need to have experience carpentry. Basically, I'm hiring a carpenter, but
You need to almost be an owner of a remodeling business.
right, you got to be able to
an hourly rate.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be an
Okay.
expert tile setter. You got to drywall, paint.
They look at the ad and they're like, "Oh my God, like there's no way." And what's funny about this is that when we narrow down to these 3 things, and we have to look, this all comes down to you, Darren, saying that first no, which is you're giving up something small for a greater return. You have to give up the small, the micro to get the macro, right? And there's going to be that phone call of, "Hey, Darren, got your name from Sally." And you got to say, "I'm so sorry. We're just not taking on any siding jobs at this time. I'm so sorry. We're just not taking any addition jobs at this time. We're narrowing down our processes. Do you have a bathroom that you'd like me to quote for you?" It needs to be that deep because you need to train the market, right? You built
Right.
14 years of doing everything for everyone. I'm sure you did a great job, but you're the one who's depleted, right? That's not okay, right? So kitchen, when I talk about hiring, can't we put out an ad for a kitchen and bath specialist that has experience kitchen and bath, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that refresh our employee labor pool with quality talent where you don't feel like you need to train kitchen and bath because someone who's looking at that ad is like, "I've done kitchen and baths for 5 years. I'd love to apply for this. That's my specialty as an employee."
Right.
Right? So now you're building a team of qualified individuals rather than on the job training of someone who is a carpenter who doesn't experience the elements of plumbing, electric, tile setting, and all the different, shower pans. I mean, all these things that there's so many components to remodeling that you need to leverage the momentum of only taking on certain projects so you can improve your business each and every day. And then again, basements, I'm sure in your area, I'm looking for someone who's remodeled basements before. So again, like this is how you free yourself. Is first you have to pick the 3 that you're going to do, and then you got to pick and stick, right? That's it. Pick and stick. You can't take on any more. The money is, it has to all do, Darren, and you too, Lorena, is the relationship you have with money. And if the money is the greatest driving force in your motivation, then you're going to find yourself completely deviated once again from the path of success. Okay. Because this is all it is. You're saying no to the money now for the glory later. And that glory might be retirement, feeling like you're profiting, consistency, predictability. And then guess what might happen after all this is done? The thought of scaling it, because you can't scale anything you're doing right now. There's no way.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that advice?
I think it's smart. I think it's wise. It is. It's just too much what I'm doing and taking on, because you're right. I rarely say no unless it's something that I absolutely know is going to be a nightmare.
What's the name of your company, Darren?
River Valley Building and Remodeling Incorporated.
Okay. Let me tell you something. There's a certain mindset, and you're at this place because I wouldn't say rock bottom. I don't like that term, but I think that you're kind of just in a hard place right now, both of you, where it's like you're stressed out. You're in a position where like a change needs to take place.
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying that Tony Robbins says, and if you guys ever listen or hear Tony Robbins, you know who that is?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, Tony Robbins, someone you should maybe listen to. He's fantastic. But one of the things that he talks about is if you want to take the island, you burn the boats, right? So in other words, like if you're trying to take over the island, you don't give yourself the ability to retreat. Give yourself the only option to retreat. And when I hear the name of your company, what that really means to me is that you have an option to retreat at any given time. Now, one more time, the name of your company, sorry, the first part?
River Valley Building and Remodeling.
Okay. River Valley Kitchen and Bath is where I'm leaning toward. Okay. And that's a rebrand. And what that is an all-in move. That's an all-in move to say, you know what? Kitchen and baths, that's all we do. Now, why is that important? Because what you're going to gather is that you're now going to become a specialist, right? And this is happening in the way our economy is leaning towards specialists. All I want you to do, and you can prove my theory wrong, you can go on Google right now and type in kitchen and bath remodelers in my area. Okay.
Right.
You're disqualified. Okay. Because the average homeowner is not looking for a builder for a remodeler. The average homeowner is looking for a specialist in that area. Okay. Because when they hear, what do they think of when they hear the word builder?
A new home.
And what does that new home usually cost? A lot of money. Right. Yep. Okay. So for me, if I'm looking for a remodeler for my bathroom, and this is me thinking from a consumer perspective, you're not getting a phone call.
Right.
Like I'm thinking of all the hurdles I need to go to get the builder to come out, look at my house and give me and I have, River Valley Bath. That's all they do. And they're really good at it. Right. Mm-hmm. So that is how you have to pivot. And these pivots in business are very difficult, but the reward is the fact that you are training your market. You're helping your employees, like with the morale, you're able to train and zero in on one thing or 3 things, and I'm not saying you can't do the basements, but kitchen and bath. I mean, this is something that you told me is the most profitable job. You have designers that are sending you this work. You still need the element of the market knowing what you do, but you have to train them on that. And then guess what? The biggest part of this is a marketing agency. You go to a marketing agency right now, you say, hey, I want you to advertise some of my services. They're going to be like, well, which one? I mean, like you do so many things. Like, so with River Valley.
Yeah.
Can't lock that in for some reason. River Valley Kitchen and Bath. Now the marketing message is kitchen and bath specialist on Facebook, on Google, on a billboard, right? Now you're just building the brand of kitchen and bath, kitchen and bath, kitchen and bath, kitchen and bath, kitchen and bath. And what that does, you have to think of this, Darren, is that you might not like doing kitchen and baths all the time. And I understand that. Like, I get it. Like, I'm sure there's something in you that's excited when you get a bigger project, but this is not about you anymore. This is about creating a system and scaling it and eventually either selling it or collecting dividends from it that are going to pay you to enjoy your life beyond your years of physical labor. And if you don't make the decision now, 14 more years from now, you're going to be thinking, damn it, I should have made that decision to narrow that down. It's tough. Trust me. I know it's hard. You got to find the LLC. I would create it as a sub business or doing business as a DBA, and then just rebrand the whole thing. Get new shirts, get new hats, get new business cards, and test it out for 6 months. Say no to everything but kitchen and baths, even basements. All in, dude. And then what you'll find, and you're going to want to get on Home Advisor, Angie Leads. You're going to want to get a Facebook marketer to help you market kitchen and bath, right?
Yep.
Just do those things. You don't need to make $10 million this year. You just need to get to that 50,000 with a lot less stress. You can make the same amount of money, but you'll be way less stressed and keep more of it. Somehow you're finding it. You're just not keeping enough of it. It's not staying with you. That's the game.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think that would be doable.
I think it's an excellent idea that we didn't previously think about, but I wonder if one of the other issues is if he's even bidding out jobs right. I mean, building supplies, everything has gone up, but how do we figure out if he's truly bidding jobs appropriately?
Well, he's only bidding for labor in most cases. Is that true when it comes to kitchen and bath, Darren?
Yes.
Well, the easiest way to protect yourself when it comes to inflation of material is to charge the homeowner directly for the material.
Yeah.
And you
always do that. Like whenever we do any sort of carpentry, it's like, we'll give you the price for the labor. We'll give you a receipt for the material,
Right.
So there's always a hedge. But I think the fact of the matter is, you have to understand like what your costs are, and ultimately you need to be bold in your approach to charge what you deserve. And if you feel like you're giving deals or you're coming in a little low because you need the work, then that's gonna, price is gonna be the biggest indicator of growth. So that's between you and your numbers to identify how much does it cost me. And I think the predictability has something to do with that, Darren. You run into enough bathrooms, you're going to be able to say, assuming, and I would put this in your contract, that if we rip a wall out, we stop the project, we come up with a new quote for you.
Yeah.
And we have the right to do that. Like, it's all in the terms. Outline that. Say, look, if I rip this wall out and there's something behind there that needs to be fixed, project stops, I need to send you a change order.
Sure.
Have you been doing that, or do you kind of just like wing it? Like, what does that usually look like?
A lot of times, it's, I have to show the customer here's what's going on so they can see it, get eyes on it. And, I just adjust accordingly.
What are you using, like, quote wise? Like, what are you sending quotes with? How are you doing business?
We have our own spreadsheets and just stuff that we have. I track jobs on spreadsheets. And
concept of perception is, if we're going to charge more, we need to be perceived as a company that deserves to charge more, right?
Right.
When you're sending quotes, how are you doing it? Is it like through email, like on a document, or is it
email a document?
So like it's made with a spreadsheet, you download it's like a PDF.
It's a letterhead. So it's a letterhead.
Like a letterhead?
It's a letterhead, yep.
Guys, explore software, whether it's DripJobs. Her Job Tread's a good one for remodeling. They're really deep into the details of like costs and stuff. But in any case, guys, understand that like software is a catalyst to your growth, especially because of the experience the customer gets there. And so like, I'll give you an example. This is one of the things I tell all DripJobs users, right? Right now, if we were on the phone doing what we're doing now and a customer called you, okay, and they said, hi, I'd like a quote, what does the process usually take them through from that moment?
I would schedule a time to meet with them to look at the project and go over and, make notes of everything I possibly can. I'll go home, get a quote ready, and within the next week or two, I'll email it over. And
so there's a lot of steps in between that I want you to be aware of, because we skipped a lot. So customer calls.
Yep.
First thing you got to get is their name, address, phone
Sure.
number,
Yep.
email. You
Yep.
got to figure out what they want, how deep into the process they are. I would even assume that in remodeling, you should understand budget, right? So what
Sure.
budget are we working with? Where, do you have materials? Are you working with a designer? So this questionnaire is very important because that helps set expectations, especially if you're running and doing these estimates. Okay.
Right.
Especially in remodeling, you don't really have the luxury to just pop in on everyone's job because these things take time. Right.
Sure.
So the reality is from that point, you have to take the information. Where are you putting that information? That first name, that last name, all those details. Where's that go?
Writing it down in a notebook.
Writing it down in a notebook. Okay. Customer receives no correspondence from the time they call you to the time you knock on the door.
Correct.
Okay. So
Unless there's any texting back and forth.
Right, like a text, like, hey, I'll be there, right? So again, perception matters, right? And I think you guys experience this in your own experience with commerce and businesses. You understand that if you go into a place that we talked about, Lorinda, that fine dining establishment with the ambiance and the manager comes up to the table and they put the napkin on your lap, like you're already thinking, I'm going to spend money here because the perception of this experience is far greater than what we had at Chipotle 2 weeks ago for lunch. Okay.
Right.
So the reality here is that the price is really subjective. People justify pricing based on how they perceive you, Darren. And ultimately, we want the perception of your customer to be that by the time you get there, based on what happened before you got there, that ultimately, when you come in, you're going to be pricing it favorably. And these are very subtle things. We don't have a lot of movement that we can do for a customer before we knock on the door. But the first thing is when you put in that information, one of the functions of DripJobs is they receive a text and an email instantly. And that email can set expectations, right? So you can craft an email that goes out to her, maybe letting her know the story of how you got in business, what your expectations are, what your quality is, right? So when you knock on the door, they might feel like they know you. From there, reminders are going out, updates are going out about what to expect. And then eventually you get to the door and you've built some rapport already. Now, I mean, again, like this is thought about scaling because eventually it's not going to be you, Darren. You're not, that's what we want to get to is where you're not the estimator, right? So put these systems in place now and be comfortable with technology because this stuff matters. And again, last part is when you're building out a quote, right? Creating a beautiful experience online, allowing change orders, right? So if someone wants to change something and you're in the bathroom with them and they're like, well, how much is it to fix this? And you kind of shotgun a price out really because you're just kind of being nice and you don't want to, upset a customer. It's like, you know what? Let me send it to the office and they're going to send you an email. Although that might be a very subtle thing, it matters, right? It takes away that pressure and you can actually price it the way it needs to be priced and they can accept it online. Like these things really matter and it adds up once, over the course of a year, you're doing all this, doing all this. So, I mean, there's so much here, but I think the core of anything I can help you with is narrow down your services and go all in on them, and hopefully because you do that, the hiring becomes easier. The marketing becomes predictable. The jobs become predictable. What do you think, man?
I like it. Definitely narrowing it down would make the stress lower, the predictability of the jobs a lot clearer.
Sure.
Because with you run into so much in my work with what I do. It's impossible to know everything.
Ken, I would just want to inject really quickly. We did try a software program called Contractor. Okay. So we tried that briefly just to help streamline the estimating process. It had a very, structured way of like responding to emails. Everything was very predictable and structured. Sure. And it seemed like it would be helpful. But the problem is the program was so complex. Neither one of us are techie people, so to speak. And I've got my own full-time job and little side gig that I do. So
DripJobs would be fine for you guys. And we train everybody on it for free. Like you'll meet with our team. You could do free setup sessions.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely think you should at least do a demo. I think that's a catalyst for growth in any case is to get a software in place. Because
I agree. Yeah.
Darren, listen, another thing is that follow-ups. Right? You probably have estimates that you've sent guys that if I said, hey, I want you to follow up with the last 5 people you sent quotes to, it would be labor for you both right now in the car, going through emails and finding phone numbers, and, you know, follow-up's important. I mean, you could be missing out on opportunity, right? So I'll send you guys a link for a demo. Just check it out. Go through the demo, see if it's something that you would feel comfortable using every single day, Darren. And I think you would find that it's simple enough and it'll save you enough time that it'd be worth figuring out and at least putting some time in to learn it just a little bit more. Now, another component of this is job costing. Have you done any job costing?
Yeah, I track every job on spreadsheets.
Great.
Pretty much every single day. I get all the receipts and I apply them to each job. And then at the end of the week, I have all labor hours and I apply them to each job.
Where do you find your margins are generally for your projects?
I haven't really, it's all over the place. I mean, it's hard to, there's not anything that's really been consistent. One job I might.
Bathrooms have highest margin because of the simplicity.
Yeah, I would say they've been profitable. I don't think I've really lost on any bathrooms. I've had some other jobs, like siding jobs, that were really profitable, but it also was just kind of a fluke thing, you know?
Okay. So again, the predictability here is the purpose of job costing is to see things in real time or as close to the project as possible and then iterate on the next one. Right. And again, that's one of the problems that we might be having is we go from bathroom to siding to basement, garage to door installation. I'm not saying you can't do all these things, but I think there's potential in your market to at least grab $1 million worth of market share in just bathroom and kitchen. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, in comparison, at least $1 million in market share. And eventually it could get to the point where you guys have a showroom and you invite people to your showroom and you have them, you know, now you're narrowing down options, right? That's what they do. They give a showroom and then they only give them 20 colors of tile or 20 types of tile. It's like, you know, you have 5 vanities to choose from and you're really cranking out consistency.
Sure.
You know, so look at what the big builders do. I mean, they give you a plan to choose from. They do this for a reason. You know, custom builders have a harder time, but these volume builders give you a plan and you have to work within the means of that plan because they calculated the consistency. They know the numbers. They do this over and over and over again. So this is a major pivot, Darren. I hope to see you make it, man. I'd love to hear how the story continues.
All right.
Good luck, my man.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for reaching out. If I can be of service to you guys, just let me know. I'll send you a link if you want to book a time with our team. Check it out. Hope to see that new logo. If you get it, send it over.
All right.
Thanks, Tanner.
Thank you.
Bye.